What's the one role your HR team needs but probably doesn't have? I'm Greg. I'm with Retention and Rewards Partners. And today I want to talk about a very strategic position for your HR team that you probably don't have. And that is a director of retention or retention specialist or head of employee retention. Now, I understand when I say that, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, we don't have that role on our team because number one, we just don't have the headcount or the budget for it. We don't even understand what it is. Why would I need that? And even if I did, where would I find somebody to do that? So I want to break this down for you because my very first role in HR, when I started my career about 20 years ago in HR, my first role was director of retention. I worked for a very progressive, forward-thinking HR team at the time. And they realized that in order to really take employee retention seriously and to reduce turnover, they needed to put somebody in charge of it. So going back to what most HR departments think is everybody is involved in retention. And that's true. Every part of the employee experience is focused on making it such a great experience that people will grow in their careers and never want to leave. Because at the core, turnover is one of the biggest people problems we have within our organizations. It generates more work for talent acquisition because when people leave, we've got to refill those positions. It generates work for onboarding because new people coming on have to be onboarded. Learning and development have to train new people on their roles. People leaving creates gaps and pressures for business managers and leaders where they have to ask other people to step in and help out. And that creates burnout. That creates other issues for our employee relations. We have to try to figure out how to keep people at pay levels. So that generates work for total rewards. So we need competitive pay and benefits. So everybody is working to try to attract and retain the talent they need to do the business that the business has asked them to do. And what gets lost there is that there's nobody in charge of focusing on turnover. Now, you could argue CHRO or CPO has to do that. That's one of their main tasks or one of their main sort of contributions to the organization. And I would agree that that's true. And at the same time, there's so many other things that the head of HR has to be focused on that focusing specifically on turnover is something they maybe don't have time to do. And again, they're focusing on turnover with all of these things. But why do you need a director of retention in your organization? Why do you have to have a specific role? And again, it goes back to you need one person to own this strategic initiative. And it's not just an initiative because it's ongoing. It's a strategic priority of focusing on how do you keep the people you need to do the jobs that you've asked them to do. So in my experience, the role I was in, here's what I did. The first thing I had to understand was what is turnover, who is leaving, where are they leaving, meaning like which parts of the company are they leaving from and when are they leaving. So a lot of organizations have turnover numbers and metrics. They track turnover. They know what their turnover rate is. And that's great, but that's a first step because what you really need to do is dig deeper into those numbers and understand who are the people that are leaving and when are they leaving. If you just track overall, you're really missing the nuance and the things that are going to allow you to take action. So a director of retention is that person that can look at the turnover and then ask the analytics team or work with the analytics team or work with the HRS team to dig down deeper into the details of turnover. And that's what I did when I took on this role. I was working for a company that was a multifamily residential real estate company. And we had our core positions were like you have a general manager at an apartment community, you have a service manager, you have a group of leasing consultants who sign up leases and renew leases for the residents to keep the apartments filled, and you have service techs who help go fix things. Those were our main huge buckets of jobs, and we were tracking turnover separately on each of those buckets of jobs. And what we found was the leasing consultants had the highest turnover. So leasing consultants were driving our turnover, but we had to get down to that level. So you may say, okay, well, we've got that. But then beyond that, it was what more, like, when were they leaving? So we were tracking turnover based on when people left in their tenure. So of people who had been there 90 days, how many people left? Of people who had been there 180 days, how many people left? Of people who had been there, a year, how many of those people left? So we got down to 10-year based turnover, and we found in the leasing consultants that people were leaving within 90 days. Okay, so great, you've got the number, but then what? Whose job is it to figure out why? And that's where, as a director of retention, I came in, and it really helped to have me in charge, because what I was then doing was asking the questions to talent acquisition, to onboarding, to the business leaders, saying, why is it people leave within 90 days in a leasing consultant position? And as we talked about it and dug in, what we really found was we were hiring the wrong people. This was like more of an attraction issue than a retention issue, but it led to turnover, because what we were doing was we were hiring these people who we thought we wanted high-end salespeople who could close deals and get the apartments filled. And the reality is that job, what you ask a leasing consultant to do, is part sales, but also resident relations and renewals. And sometimes you're sitting in the office just waiting for people to walk in. And so residents come in and they talk to you about their service issues, and they talk to you about, what's going on in their lives. And so if you're just a salesperson, high-end salespeople, they just want to sell. They want to sell. They don't want to do anything else. They don't want to deal with customer relations, resident relations. They want to sell. So in an apartment community, number one, you have a fixed inventory. So if you're a salesperson, you can sell and fill up the apartment complex. You can't sell anymore. It's done, right? You can try to get renewals for next month, but there's not unlimited units to sell. And the pricing is set pretty fixed. And again, as the unit count goes down, the price goes up, and you got to sell even more. And then the commissions that we're able to pay, I mean, these are not high dollar value transactions. So there's only so much commission you can build it. So we were getting people who were expecting to make a boatload of money selling apartments, and they got in the job and they were like, number one, I can't make that much money. And number two, I have to do other jobs, and I don't really want to do other jobs. So the profile of what we were hiring was wrong. And so the intervention was, let's make sure we're hiring for the job that we're actually asking them to do. So we had to reset the expectations with the leader, saying, this is the type of person we're going to hire that's going to be better in this job. They're going to be more effective, and they're actually going to stay longer. And when we started hiring to the actual job we wanted them to do, instead of what we thought we wanted them to do, we were able to improve retention. And the turnover rate for those leasing consultants went way down when we made that intervention. So I could have, if I wasn't in there, somebody would have been like, hey, we have short-term turnover, like we need to onboard differently, or we're not hiring the right people. Sure. But then TA is going to say, well, we're doing what we're being told by the hiring managers, so that's what we're doing. And so when you don't have somebody sitting in the center of this problem and trying to look at it from all sides, each individual department starts defending what it is they're doing and saying, it's not me, right? I mean, it's just human nature. When people say we've got a problem, most departments are going to say, it's not me. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's why you need somebody in charge of retention and trying to monitor and drive turnover down, because then you don't have each department defending what they're doing, and you can have a more cross-department, cross-collaborative conversation in order to really hone in on what the turnover issue is. Now, as I've gone through my career, and I've never seen anybody with this title since, and I moved on out of retention and I moved into some other areas of the business or of HR. I got into compensation and benefits, and we still had all the turnover reporting and things we were doing under the analytics team. as I've moved through my career, I've never seen somebody with that title. And so it makes me think, most people don't want to put somebody in charge of that. Because again, they say everybody's in charge of it. We should all work together on it. But again, if you don't have somebody leading that, you're likely going to keep spinning your wheels on turnover. Now, I've gotten to some other places and they have more advanced analytics departments. They have talent analytics people and HR analytics people who will focus on coming up with a story around this. But I've never seen anybody like dig deep enough into the turnover, because they usually have a lot of HR metrics and they're trying to tell a story with all of them. They don't get deep enough into a real deep level to figure out what do we need to do to change this. So I would advocate that if you're really struggling with turnover, if turnover's high and it's been a problem and you can't seem to get it down, it's a good possibility you need a director of retention or retention specialist to come in and look at what you're tracking, how you're tracking it, how to figure out where you might want to focus your efforts on driving down turnover. And, the good news is, in this new world we live in, you can hire people fractionally to do this. So you don't need a full headcount to have a director of retention. You can hire a fractional director of retention. In fact, that's what I do at Retention and Reward Partners. I mean, it's in the name. I can be a fractional director of retention who can work with you and your team on a part-time basis and can help you diagnose where you have opportunities to help reduce your turnover. So if that's something you're interested in, please get in touch with me, contact me at the Retention and Reward Partners. Retentionandrewards.com is the website, but Retention and Reward Partners on LinkedIn. We have a company page. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn or find my email address and get in touch with me and book some time. And we can talk about what it might look like in an engagement to help you drive down your turnover with a fractional director of retention coming into your organization. So that's something that, again, most companies aren't that progressive. They're not thinking that far forward. But if you're somebody who's got the courage to really dig in and figure out what's going on with your turnover, reach out to me. Let me know. I'd love to talk to you and see what we can do and see how we can work together.